Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Animal Communication Adventures. My name's Nicole. I'm an animal communicator from Australia.
And I'm Courtney. I'm an animal communicator from the United States. And we're so happy that you're joining us today. We have a really, really fun episode. Just with all the craziness going on in the world, we figured we kind of lighten the mood a little bit, tell some of our favorite stories. We get asked a lot, what's something funny that an animal said, or just something very notable. So that's what we wanted to talk about today was some of our funny stories. Some of them are inspirational. Some of them are just really, really cool in their own way. So we sort of want to give you like a little dabble of some of our really cool stories. Just as a side note, real quick, Nicole, I didn't tell you this. We're having a really bad windstorm at my house right now. So if you hear a tree falling on my house, it's because a tree did fall on my house. So
Do you
yeah,
want me to call someone or
yeah,
text them?
yeah. So I mean, it hasn't died down yet, but I'm sitting at my kitchen window, so I'm just putting the little exclaimer out there. But all right, so let's jump into it. So Nicole, let's go ahead and start with your stories, and then we'll go with mine. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me. And I just want to have a little another disclaimer on my end, on the opposite side of the world, that my roosters are clearly happy that we're telling stories and they're carrying on. So you will hear animal noises in the background of my story. So I apologize to everyone, but we live with animals, so that's what happens. um, okay, so I've written mine down on a piece of paper, just little stories that I have. See, there they go. I have collected over the years, and I think also I wanted just to mention that animal communication. I know I bang on about this all the time. Animal communication is not mind control. So I can, tell an animal something, including my own animals, and they don't have to do it. It's the equivalent of me saying to Courtney, "Can you just go tell my son to go pick up his stuff in the room?" And he'll probably go, "Yeah, righto," or he might go, "Yeah, righto." Like they have their own free will, they have their emotions, and these stories that we have just sort of display their characters and how they can be, and just the funny side of animal communication, and just not the seriousness for once. Um, Now, because we are heading into Christmas, and I do have the owner's permission to mention this on air, I wanted to explain about a cat called Noodles. Noodles lives in the US, so your land. And Suzanne gave me the confirmation to explain to everyone about what happened when I spoke to her cats. Now she has three cats, and do you know what? I'm getting a bit blurred with what every one of them said, because I don't really retain the information except for if it's a story like this, because you speak to so many, you can't really remember them all. But I do remember Noodles, and I remember Noodles very clearly because Noodles was a cat that explained to me that there is a spirit of Christmas. And I know that, when we watch these Christmas shows and it's like this magical feeling and we all love it. And, when we're a kid, like we have this amazement and wonder around the world and, around Christmas, and you're like, "Oh, this is lovely." And we seem to forget that, or we lose that when we become adults. We tend to lose a lot, and we tend to lose a lot of amazement about the world. But
Mhm.
Noodles was a cat that said to me, "No, there is a spirit of Christmas." Noodles knows when it's Christmas without the tree being up. Noodles knows when it's coming to that time of year because the the energy changes. And she said to me, "There is a genuine spirit of Christmas." And I was like, oh, that kind of blew my mind, because I'm like, what? This like real? Like you kind of hope. It's kind of like hearing that Santa's real, but there's like a spirit of Christmas. And every year, Noodles' mum is so lovely and sends me a photo of Noodles underneath the Christmas tree. Just loves it. Noodles laps up everything about Christmas, because the energy is right. Just loves it. Like I love Christmas. But anyway, so that was just one thing I wanted to pass on, that Noodles
Nice.
loves Christmas and says there is a spirit of Christmas. So
That's
there you
awesome.
go.
It has more Christmas spirit than some people do.
Right? I can sometimes
Yeah.
be a bit of a Grinch, but this cat was just like, no, this is like, it's fun. It's like there is a change in the air. And animals are so good at picking up that change of energy. Animals know when um, world events are going to happen. They go to high grounds, but this is the good side and this is the fun side. I'm like, oh my God, it's so amazing. And every
Yeah.
year I look forward to seeing my photo of Noodles underneath the Christmas tree. I love it. She's awesome. And,
It's your
and
Christmas present.
it really is. And I'm like, oh, my Noodles. And you know what? I've never forgotten her, and I've never forgotten what she said. So she actually left a lasting impact on me. And you know, when I was taking notes, because I speak to the animal and I take notes, and then I'm like, am I going to sound crazy? Am I going to sound crazy saying to mum that this is what the cat said? But you know, you just bring it through anyway and hope they understand. But yeah, no. So there you go. That was Noodles that taught me that there is a spirit of Christmas.
Wow.
Um,
Awesome.
yeah, so I'm like little Noodles, and then I thought I'd try and pick on my animals because you know I don't really know if I have other people's permission to speak about their pets. So I'll change up gears and speak about my little chicken Saya. Now Saya has an attitude. She's To me, I find it hilarious, but you know, in the animal world, she just has an attitude. She does what she wants. You can talk to her, and she'll be like, you know, like she will literally give me attitude, and you can see her change and, um, you know, interact with you. And there was
Mhm.
this one day when I was in the lounge room because she's decided she's an inside chicken as well. Like you kick her out and she just comes back in. Um, in the lounge room, we had a drake, so male duck that was recovering from surgery. We had to keep him separate from the others. You know, had to keep him safe. And we actually kept him up high so we could see the TV, so he wasn't bored out of his brains. Just sitting there doing something, and then Saya jumped up, looked at me, looked at my husband, and said, "You know, he hasn't fed the duck." I went, "Really?" And then I looked at my husband. I said, said something like, "Oh, Sai said you haven't fed the duck, or have you fed the duck?" And he looked at me and went, "No," and then got up and fed the duck. So
Wow.
she was like coming to me complaining because the duck was hungry, and he obviously couldn't get my attention because I was doing something. So she's like walked around over, come up, stood in front of me, like got my attention and said, "This man needs to go and feed this duck." And my husband complied and went, "You're all right," and then fed the duck.
Oh, wow.
So I just thought it was funny that she sort of dobbed him in, but it also wanted to reassure people that animals won't just dob you into us. Like they won't give us images of you naked or anything like that. I won't
Yeah.
allow it personally, and I don't want anyone to dob anyone in. It's meant to be fun or informative or helpful, and that sort of stuff doesn't help. But with Sai, because she lives with us and she was sort of like trying to get my attention to say, he hasn't fed the duck. You need to get him to feed the duck. Um, she just like, she was very forceful. And
She's
I
your
don't know, I
manager.
found that funny. Pardon?
Yeah, yeah, she's your manager. That's hysterical. Oh my gosh.
And she's so funny because when she's mad, she normally has, you know, they have red around their face, but when she's mad, her face goes bright red. Um, and it's
Wow.
like, ooh, Saya's mad, and you can tell it, and it is a part of the, you know, your body's response to the
Yeah.
energy, fight or flight kind of mode. But yeah, when she's mad, you can tell, you can look at Saya and go, ooh, she is mad. But she's like this big. She's a what is she? A bantam, ah, old English game fowl or something like that. She's tiny.
Uh-huh.
I don't even think she weighs 500 grams. She's really tiny, but so much attitude, and it's just Saya. So we love it.
That's funny.
Um, Let me see. What was another one? Okay, I'll give you another story from my dog. Now, this is my dog. I have 4 dogs, and 2 of them can hear, 2 of them can't hear. And Zusya is my dog. She like I have her name tattooed on my like this is my dog. You know, we all have that one animal,
Yeah.
and she's very dramatic. She is the top of the pack, although you wouldn't notice it if you looked at it because she's like, oh, she's so fine, but no, no, she's the top of the pack. And you know, I've got a couple of dogs at the time. They were going through a few things medically. So one dog, my Staffy, had bone cancer and had to have his leg
Mhm.
removed, and now he's going through the treatment and he's doing really well. And you know, like he had his leg removed and he was like, okay, cool, 3 legs, no problems, just dealt with it. going through chemo, you wouldn't even know that he's going through chemo. Like, he's just dealing with it like a champion.
Mm-hmm.
Susya had a little fat lump. Well, actually, it grew, but it started as a little fat lump, and you can move them, and it's a fat lump.
Yeah.
We got it tested by the vet, all that, but it was just in an awkward spot, and it was annoying her, sort of like on her knee. And so I asked if we could have it removed to make her comfortable. Now I knew it was going to be an operation, um, and you prepare them for it, you do the best that you can, and you get them to, but it is a scary. She hates going to the vet, whereas my other dog that had the bone cancer, he couldn't care less, loves it. When she came to from her operation and came home, she was miserable. She would just like not talk to us, and then I think it was either that night or the next day, she just looked at me and she said, "Oh, just kill me." Like, and she was so passionate, and she's like, "This is terrible, just kill me," because she had one of those cones on her head.
Uh,
Just And she'd sit there and she'd just look at you, and she would just like have all this, "I can't believe this happened to me," like so dramatic. And meanwhile, my other dog, who has a cone on his head, like dealing with having no leg, he was
yeah.
like, "Yeah, cool, no worries, let's go." And like, she's just like, "Oh, kill me." And I'm like, anyway, so I just wanted to show you that some animals can be dramatic. Some of them can give us a lot of insight about things that you wouldn't normally think about, but they are very um, tuned into and then let you know. And then you can have an angry little chicken that'll be like, "You need to do this," and like, "Do it now." Um, what's another one that I can tell you? I've had I don't know, you've probably had this too, when we've been connecting with animals, and say if we're doing it remotely, and you can actually, it's weird because we can see, it's hard to describe to people that we can see clairvoyantly, and you can see animals roll their eyes,
Oh,
or yeah, or they're like, "Oh, you again." You know,
yeah.
like
Uh-huh.
they can have an attitude, sometimes they don't want to talk to you.
Yep.
Um, Most people, like, they will, but then they'll be like, and then when you bring that back through to the client, and they're like, "Oh yeah, they do that." And I think it's
Mhm.
funny because their attitude and their personalities come through in a reading, and the funny side of it, um, even sometimes the way they sit, you can see them sitting in a different angle, and all this funny stuff that we get, that we don't get to share with many people.
Right.
um, but it's fun. That's what makes our job fun.
Totally.
um, what else? The other day, this will be my last story, then I'll flick it over to you because I don't want it to go too long. But the other day I was driving, I was on a long drive. I wasn't really paying attention. It sounds bad. I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. I was just sort of all in my mind. And then all of a sudden, it was like I snapped out of it, and I could see a dog in in the car ahead of me. And it was in like a ute, and an enclosed cage. It was completely safe, just staring at me, just kind of like saying, "Oh, how are you today?" Because it could tell that my energy was completely off and I wasn't really in the mood. And like, it just jolted me out of this little like pity party I was having. And I was just sort of, just wanted to say hello, just wanted to drop in, and was dead, like staring at me. And then I was like, oh, it was so beautiful. I didn't even know this dog. It was just this random dog that just wanted to show me a little bit of kindness.
Mhm. That was the
And then
nicest
as
part.
I Yeah, it's just, I mean, see, animals are beautiful.
Mhm.
And what was that's right. And then I was talking to this dog, just like saying, "Oh, thanks." I was really like in my little old mind there, as we can get into. And then I saw, all of a sudden, I had this pool of energy, and I'm like, "Why do I feel like there's another dog? Like, you normally have another dog with you. Like, I can only see you, and then, but there's another dog." And all of a sudden, his dog's head popped up and went, "Oh, me? You want to talk to me?" And then I'm like, and then these dogs are just staring at me, having this conversation while I'm driving, which I would not recommend to people. Um, but I drove long distances, and it was just staring at me and having a little chat. And then it was turning off, and I was sort of kept going. And then, as the car was slowing down, it stood up, and they both just looked at me all the way as I drove past, and just wanted to wish me a happy day, kind of thing. And just a happy exchange. And I thought that was beautiful. And I had no idea whose dogs they were. Obviously, the
Right.
person driving the car, didn't know them. That they just wanted to, so sometimes they connect with us and just wanted to pass on good messages to us and make us feel
Right.
better.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So there you go. I'm going to flick it over to you, and I want to hear your exciting stories because I know you've got lots of them.
Okay. I liked your stories. They were really good.
Thanks.
All right. So my first story isn't really a funny story, but it was a really, really cool experience. So I was doing, I do animal like reading parties. I go to a location and they'll have like a group of people and we just like do a bunch of readings. And this girl walked in and she brought her dog with her. He was a German Shepherd, and she looked really upset, right? And she also, I could totally feel she was so skeptical, which is fine. I mean, I deal with a lot of skeptical people. Hopefully, I think I do a pretty good job of, changing their mind. So I wasn't concerned about that. She said her dog, her German Shepherd, I think he was 6 months old at the time. And she wanted to know the deep reason of why he was why they got together. What like it wasn't like she just got this dog randomly. Like there was a deep reason. So I connected and I could feel that there was this was dealing with somebody who passed over, and it was a male. I couldn't figure out at the time if it was her dad or if it was like a significant other, like a boyfriend or something. But I definitely was getting like a passed over male feeling. And I saw a second German Shepherd who was passed over, and he was with this male figure. So I gave her all this information, and I said that your dog, who's alive, he's really connected with the passed over guy and his dog. Like you guys are all connected. And she starts bawling her eyes out, and I'm like, oh no, what did I say? And here, her boyfriend had committed suicide 6 months ago, and that passed over dog that I saw was his dog. And I don't know what happened with the dog, but it's obviously now in heaven with him. And the day that he committed suicide is the day that her German Shepherd was born. He was born the day that he died. And I just got the biggest feeling that her passed over boyfriend was able to connect to her more easily through her dog. I'm not saying he didn't channel through the dog. I'm not saying that at all, but like she was just able to really feel his energy through her dog. And just some like the little things like that her dog did 100% reminded her of her boyfriend. And she wasn't even thinking of her boyfriend at the time, and her dog would do something and then she would think of her boyfriend. And that those random things are signs, from anyone from up in heaven. So it was such a cool experience that that I was able to help her heal and find that connection of why that dog came to her, so to speak, and that her boyfriend was okay. It was a really, really beautiful thing.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I can, and then when they cry too, you sometimes think, "Oh my God, what have I done?" But that's awesome because she would have been releasing
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that
So
was cool.
cool. Yeah.
My other story is with one of my own cats. She's passed over now, but at the time she was alive, and her name is Salem. She's one of those cats. She was very shy, and she's a very, very sweet cat, but she's very shy. She was bottom of the totem pole as far as like her pecking order, and she was always a cat that was more in the shadows. She was more of an extrovert, no, an introvert. She was very, very quiet and like to keep to herself. She was an introvert. Yeah, to think about that. So that was like her personality. So I was thinking about getting another cat, right? Because all my cats at the time they were all getting older. We weren't having kittens anymore. So I was like, maybe I'll get another young cat, freshen the blood up here again. And so I asked the other cats, and I've had so many cats over the years. Like they're barn cats and stuff, and they don't care. Like they have no issues with their cats at all. Nobody cared. I got to Salem. I called her Say Say. I said, Say Say. I was like, what do you think if I get another cat? This is her response, right? So whenever like cats, like they're just kind of just chilling out. They're just like sitting there and they close their eyes. They're awake, but they just have their eyes closed, right? So that's she was just sitting there, have their eyes closed. I asked her, Salem, what do you think about me getting another cat? I swear to God, this is what she did. What? No.
That's funny.
Woke her right up. What? No.
You were told, lady.
And I said, all right, Salem has spoken. We are not getting another cat.
Oh, that's pretty cute.
So,
I love that.
switching stories, my very, very first paid reading when I went legit into business, I had this lady who has a little Chihuahua, and one of the questions was like, what do you want to do, or what do you like to do, or something along those lines. This dog showed me an image of her swimming, and at first I was like, swimming, like Chihuahuas, they don't really swim. I mean, they can, any dog can swim, but it's not like she was a lab or anything like that. I was like, all right. So I told her mom, and her mom's like, she has never swam in her life. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Like, that's what I saw. And she's like, all right. This will be fun. She's like, I'll take her to my brother. His house. He has a pool, and we'll just see what happens. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope I didn't get this wrong, because I mean, of course any animal can swim, and she's not gonna let her dog drown. But I'm just, I'm like, oh my God, I hope I got this right. Right? I don't want to make a fool of myself on my very, very first paid reading. And so she emails me back like a couple days later, and she's like, she can swim. And she said this dog loved it. She put her in the water, and she had I mean, you would have thought she swam every day of her life. She was a total pro. She didn't want to get out of the pool. Like her owner was just blown away. This little Chihuahua, So that was really cool. Another story I had. My client, she was 8 months pregnant. And she did not want to know the gender of her baby. They wanted to be surprised. So she, and everyone guesses like it's going to be a boy or a girl. And so she asked her dog, she's like, what do you think I'm going to have? Now, I know that this was not like my brain guessing, because whenever, when I'm in that situation, someone asks what I think, I am so wishy-washy on, oh, I think it's a boy. No, I think it's a girl. I'm terrible at playing that game. So I knew when she asked that question to her dog, immediately I got boy. Like, it was so strong. It was so confident. That dog's like, you are having a boy. So because of how it felt and how quick and confident and not wishy-washy, I was like, oh, that was that dog's answer, not. And so the lady was like, okay, well, when I have the baby, I'll have to let you know. And yeah, she had a boy. So her dog totally called it. Now, like, I don't know if it was just like her dog's instincts, or I don't know if even, I mean, obviously dogs can smell a baby like while a woman's still pregnant, but I don't know if there's a difference in how a gender would smell, like if it's like a hormonal difference, or I don't know. I don't know how that dog really knew, but it knew. So
That's so, because it's funny that you mentioned baby. You remind me of another story, but they are so in tune. Like, they just know. And I had a story with I hope they don't mind me mentioning it, actually, with talking to a past over dog, and this dog kept showing me babies and bassinets and all this sort of stuff. So I relayed that to the owner, and the owner was sort of like, oh, for whatever reason, we're not sure if we're going to have children or if we can, that sort of stuff. And I didn't want to go into it because I could tell that it just wasn't answered. This is just what the dog was bringing through.
Yeah.
And then 8 weeks later, she sent me a message. She said, I'm 6 weeks pregnant.
Oh.
And it was like that dog knew. And then when she messaged me, she said, I didn't think I could actually have children. And obviously it wasn't me, it was the dog.
Yeah.
Same as you're like, and they just like bring it through, and like, you can't, you don't know this stuff. And I know there's all science behind it, but then also some of what we do goes against science, because apparently, some animals can't see color, but then we can sometimes bring through a particular color that apparently they can't see. So there's a
Yeah.
lot, I think, we still don't know, even in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
But I love that story. I remember you actually mentioning you were going to say that one. I love that story. I love
Yeah.
it. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Let's see. I'm looking at my list. Okay, so this one's funny. So we were doing a check-in with a passed over dog, and he was saying, yeah, he comes back to visit his people, but then he went a step further, and he said that he goes to complete random strangers' houses and he looks in their windows. This dog is a total creeper. And I was like, why are you looking in strangers' windows? And he's like, I'm just curious. I just want to see what other people do. And I was dying. And he said that he didn't feel comfortable like going in their house because he didn't know them, and he did like an invasion of privacy sort of thing. So he's just a creeper that looks in people's windows.
A little dog ghost stalker.
Yes, yes. And when I told the people this, they were dying, and they said they totally could see their dog being a creeper in people's windows, like totally.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so funny.
yeah. And
See,
then,
they all have such different personalities.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And we'll do one more story because we're
Okay.
coming up on our half hour.
Okay.
A couple years ago, I was a vendor. I had a booth at a pet expo in the city near me, and so I was doing like a live face-to-face reading with somebody. Her dog was at home, so we did it through picture. And they asked, oh, I don't know her dad's name. We'll just call him John. She's like, oh, what does my dog think about my dad, John? And I got the information, and I was like, no, I don't think that's right. And then I asked the dog again, and yeah, I got the same answer. And I said, okay, talking to the people, I was like, I don't mean to offend you, and I don't think the dog is trying to offend either. They're just making a statement, and I'm not always right. No one ever doing this kind of work is ever 100% accurate. But this dog is saying that John kind of smells. and, and they cracked up. They were like, he does stink. He does stink. Oh my God. And like, I was really debating. I was like, I can't tell them this because I don't want to offend them. And what if I'm wrong? I mean, just, all the what ifs. And dog kept on saying, no, he stinks. He stinks. Tell them. Tell them.
Oh, awkward.
Oh my God. So, but luckily, like I said, they found it very funny, and yeah. So yeah. So those are my funny stories, and sorry.
I love that. No, I love them. I'm like listening to your stories, like, wow, they're so much better than my stories.
Oh, no. They all have their own character. I mean, yeah. But you know what though?
Yeah.
Like you said, we have done so many readings that I'm sure we could probably come up with 50 more like funny stories. It's just we don't remember them all. Like we have them all wrote down like through email and stuff, but like we would have to go through each and every one and read them, so it's just
Yeah.
we can't remember them all up here.
It is hard, and although you do have like every now and then things that just really, really stand out, and
Mm-hmm.
you just can't shake it. And one for me is, um, I was doing a communication, and this dog, passed over dog, kept bringing up sunflowers. And in my mind, you're like, why would a dog bring up sunflowers? Like, what is why would it, like, it just makes no sense to me. Like, and I even felt the compulsion to buy a bunch of sunflowers. I'm like, this is crazy. And then I was kind of like, oh, didn't want to mention this to the owner. I'm like, I don't know why, but about 3 or 4 times this dog has mentioned sunflowers, and there's a really, really strong pull to sunflowers. And just like you, she started crying. And I'm like, oh no, what have I said? Oh my God, what have I done? And then she mentioned that that was actually her symbol for her brother who had passed, and that means her past dog is with her past brother. And I was like, oh my God. And then you just like those sorts of things you just don't forget, like
Yeah,
with the gender of the baby, like it's just so strong.
yeah.
And yeah, we have so many stories, but then I'm also one of these people that if you put on the spot to answer a question, like my mind goes a million miles an hour. Like, I don't know which one do I pick? Stop my mind is crazy.
I
Um,
know.
but anyway, we're probably coming up to our half an hour, so I'll let you um, do what you do at the end of our chat because you do it so much better than I do. So I'm going to let Courtney take the reins there.
Okay, so I hope you guys all enjoyed some of our funny, crazy, inspirational, just really cool stories that we've experienced. We really love doing what we do. We would love to hear if you guys have any funny stories, with your animals. If you could post it in the comments, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But we'll be back next month in January. And we just really want to wish you guys all a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Absolutely. And Noodle says, there is a spirit of Christmas.
Yeah, think of noodles this Christmas.
Yeah, Noodles is now famous. But yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, even the rooster says it. And we'll see you all next year.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See ya.